All right, Shabbos, say good morning. Our daf today is Yutes 19. We are picking up from Yudches Amud Beis, the last line. Amar Rava, Yudches Amud Beis 18, the last line. Amar Rava Bar Ado Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Sammy and Malka Esterson in memory of their parents, Ludwig Stiefel, Yitzchak Leib Aaron HaKohen, and Hinda Esterson, Hinda Bas Henech Ephraim. We obtain the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama Sahav and Aliyah, and the family in Nechama. So let's begin. Remember again, we left off in the middle of the sugya of Bikurim yesterday. So let's continue a little bit along that. Amar Rava Bar Ada Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Bikurim me'emasay mechayvin aleihem. So the Gemara begins with a very simple question, a very profound question. Rava says, from what point in time is one chayiv for Bikurim? So what does that mean, is one chayiv for Bikurim? Take a look at the top Rashi. If a non-Kohen eats Bikurim, from what point in time will he be chayiv for that act of consumption? So the Gemara says, ultimately, again, as soon as the Bikurim come to the Beis HaMikdash, as soon as they see the Beis HaMikdash, so one is chayiv ultimately again for a non-Kohen would be chayiv for consuming the Bikurim. In other words, once as you're bringing them up, this is actually very interesting, because generally we assume that the Bikurim designation occurs when you first go out into the field, right? Like the Mishnah Bikurim says, they tie a gemi, they would tie a little piece of string around the particular fruits. That's when it's Bikurim. But the Gemara is saying no, is that there might be a designation as Bikurim, but the chalos shem Bikurim, the actual halachic technical designation of Bikurim, doesn't occur until the fruits actually come to the Beis HaMikdash. Yishir b'nei habayis. Kiman, whose opinion does this reflect? Ki hai Tana, the following Tana. This Tana, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Bikurim, mikzasan b'chutz or mikzasan b'fnim. This is actually an interesting case. Let's say I'm bringing a basket of Bikurim, and part of the basket is inside of the Beis HaMikdash, part of the basket is outside of the Beis HaMikdash. What's the status of the fruit in the basket? Sheba chutz harehein kechulin. So the fruit that's on the outside, right, the fruit that has not yet physically entered the building, ultimately again is chulin. It's like unconsecrated fruit. L'chol divrayim. Shebifnim harehen kehektish l'chol divrayim. But the fruit that I've extended inside, we'll say ultimately again, that is like hektish in every way. So you see over here at that lamaisa, but you also see that riyas pnei habayis doesn't just mean to see the outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Rather, riyas pnei habayis actually means entry into the Beis HaMikdash itself. So once the fruit enter into the Beis HaMikdash, they have the chalos shem bikurim. Before they enter in, they're just stam fruit. So Amar Rav Sheshes, bikurim hanocha makebas. By the way, that is halacha l'mais. That's not the Rambam Paskins. That again, the fruit only becomes designated as bikurim after it actually enters into the Beis HaMikdash proper. Amar Rav Sheshes. Back to our previous discussion. Hanocha makebas bahen, kriya ein makebas bahen. Rav Sheshes comes along and says that when it comes to bikurim, hanocha, placement of the fruit by the mizbeach, ultimately goes as ma'akev. That is an indispensable part of the bikurim service. Kriya eina ma'akev esbaim. But the recitation of the psukim, that is not ma'akev. The recitation of the psukim, we'll say, of course, everybody agrees l'chatchila you should have it, but if you don't do it, it's not ma'akev. Kiman, we'll say, whose opinion does this reflect? Ki hai Tana, like the following Tana. The sign, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Shlosha Dvarim Mishum Shlosha Zakenim. So we'll say Rabbi Yossi used to say 3 different things in the name of 3 elders. What were the 3 elders? Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Yochel Ya'ale Adam Ma'aser Sheni B'Zman Hazeh B'Yerushalayim. Yochel and Abbas is actually very interesting. So Rabbi Shmuel says begins the following discussion. I might have thought that a person would think that you could even bring Ma'aser Sheni to Yerushalayim today. We'll say today means in the absence of the Beis HaMikdash, and still eat it. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Yochel Ya'ale Adam. So says Rashi, Kasavar Kedusha Sa'aretz Lo Batla, V'tzarach Laharfish Ma'aser. So we'll say this opinion holds that the Kedusha of the land, Rabbi Shmuel says. Now remember again, Rabbi Shmuel here is having a theoretical discussion. I might have thought that a person could go ahead and bring Meiser Sheni to Yerushalayim and eat Meiser Sheni today. So Rashi says over here, Kasavar, Kedusha Sa'aretz Lo Batal. So we'll say, first of all, this presupposes a number of things. Number one, that the Kedusha of the land itself, is not batal. We'll say we're going to touch on two different discussions today, which is Kedushas Eretz Yisrael and Kedushas Harabayis. And those two things are different. In order for Trumos and Maestros to be in effect today, Kedushas Haaretz, the holiness of the land, has to still be intact. That may or may not mean that Harabayis, the Temple Mount, still has its Kedusha as well. Two independent Kedushos. So Rabbi Shmuel says, back to that Rashi. Kasavar Kedushas Haaretz lo batla. Rabbi Shmuel says, say like this. I might have thought that because there is still Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, I could separate out Meiser Sheni and what? Bring it to Yerushalayim and eat my Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim. Okay, so the Gemara says, V'dinu. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel says, V'dinu, I'm going to prove to you from a Kal V'chomer that this in fact is not the case. Watch this. Bechor ton hava'os makom. So we'll say Bechor, which means again, this is, I have to give my firstborn animal. I have to give my firstborn animal to the Kohen. I give it to the Kohen, and the Kohen is permitted to consume it. I am not permitted to consume it. I desire of the soul. What happens? So Bechor ton hava'os makom. A Bechor must be brought to the Beis HaMikdash. U'meiser Sheni ton hava'os makom. Meiser Sheni also must be brought to the Beis HaMikdash. So Ma Bechor ein lo ela b'fnei habayis, just like the Bechor offering can only be brought when there is a Beis HaMikdash. Af Meiser ein lo ela b'fnei habayis. So to what? So to Meiser Sheni can only be brought when there is a Beis HaMikdash as well. So Rabbi Shmuel tried to make a Kal V'chomer. I might have thought that since there's Kedushas Eretz Yisrael and there's an obligation to separate out Trumos and Maestros, that's what? That Allah again, I can bring Meiser Sheni to Yerushalayim today, and I can eat Yerushalayim. To which Rabbi Shmuel says, no. I can make a Kal V'chomer, that Meiser Sheni has to be brought to Yerushalayim, and Bechor has to be brought to Yerushalayim. Or both, right? Just like Bechor could only be brought if the Beis HaMikdash stands, so too Meiser Sheni could only be eaten in Yerushalayim if the Beis HaMikdash stands. To which the Gemara says, 1 second. Ma'ale Bechor shekin ton matan damin ve'emur legabi mizbeach. But 1 second, there's a fundamental distinction. What's the fundamental distinction? When it comes to Bechor, the Moshe says, so Bechor requires blood applications. Bechor requires batan damim, which means sprinkling of blood, ve'emurin, and also again the sacrificing of certain limbs on the mizbeach. So to which I will say doesn't apply to Meiser Sheni. Therefore, again, who's to say that Lemaisa again? Let's say just a quick announcement. Some beige Camry engine is running in the parking lot. If you have a beige Camry, you left your car on. Thank you, Aaron.
That could be intentional.
Okay, if you are the owner of a beige Camry, LE, car engine running in the parking lot. Aaron, thank you. So we'll say, so again, so the Gemara says over here, so therefore the Kal V'chomer doesn't work. The Kal V'chomer doesn't work because at the end of the day, halacha l'maisa again, Bechor has matan dam as well as giving of a murim on the mizbeach, which again Meiser Sheni does not. Therefore, you can't prove from Bechor that Meiser Sheni requires the presence of a Beis HaMikdash. To which I will say the Gemara introduces something else. So why don't we say Bikurim yochichu? So Bikurim can prove this point. How so? Mala Bikurim shekin tu'unin hanocha. So we'll say, so I would say maybe Bikurim can prove the point. Bikurim have to be brought to Yerushalayim, but also what? Require the presence of a Beis HaMikdash. So too again, I would say that Meiser Sheni also not only has to be brought, but can only be brought when to Yerushalayim, only be brought when there's a Beis HaMikdash. To which the Gemara says, no. You can't bring a raya from Bikurim. Why not? Ma'ale Bikurim shekin tu'unin hanocha. Bikurim are different. I will say because Bikurim ultimately again require hanocha, require placement before the mizbeach. Talmud lomar v'achalt lifnei Hashem Elokecha. Therefore, the pasuk says ultimately again you shall consume them before Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Makish meiser lebechar. The Torah equates Meiser Sheni to bechor behema, to the bringing of the firstborn animal. Ma bechor ein ela lifnei abayis, af meiser ein ela lifnei abayis. So we'll say, so again, at the end of the day, the Gemara says, we thought we were going to learn this whole thing out from a Kal V'chomer. It turns out that we don't learn it out from a Kal V'chomer. It turns out that we learn it out ultimately again from a pasuk. The Torah equates Meiser Sheni to Bechor, just like Bechor, we'll say, can only be brought when the Beis Hamikdash stands. So to again, after Meiser Sheni, so to we'll say Meiser Sheni is only consumed in Yerushalayim when the Beis Hamikdash stands. We'll say, I want to be clear. Meiser Sheni, we know, does not need to be brought to the Beis Hamikdash. The limud over here is that Meiser Sheni has to be consumed in Yerushalayim, but can only be consumed in Yerushalayim when the Beis Hamikdash stands. Now, I will say, why is this entire conversation relevant for us? For only one purpose. Remember again, the Gemara quoted the statement from Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes said that by Bikurim, Hanocha Ma'akeves Bohem. When it comes to Bikurim, it's not Kriya, but rather it's Hanocha, it's the placement before the Mizbeach, ultimately that is Ma'akev. So Rav Sheshes said that. The Gemara wanted to say, whose opinion does this reflect? So the Gemara now suggests that, in fact, that was the opinion ultimately again of Rabbi Shmuel. Because remember again, Rabbi Shmuel brings up, Rabbi Yossi brings up this idea that by Bikurim, you can't learn out from Bikurim to Meiser Sheni. Why not? Because Bikurim has a peculiar halacha, or not peculiar, but halacha, that placement for the Mizbeach is Makif. So from here you see that hanocha, Rabbi say, that placement before the Mizbeach is the key piece of the Bikurim service. So the Gemara says the following. Gemara says, Ve'imisa. And again, if it's true that that Hanocha was not Ma'akev, but ultimately, again, Kriya was Ma'akev, the recitation of the Psukim was what's most important. Lifroch, then the Gemara should have asked, or the Brisa should have asked, Mali Bikurim Shekim to Unin Kriya V'Hanocha. The positive, I mean, when the Brisa was learning it out, they wanted to show that you can't learn out Meiser Sheni from Bikurim, because Bikurim has its own unique halachas. It should have said Bikurim has the din of Kriya and Hanocha, Meiser Sheni does not, but it doesn't say anything about Kriya. It says, we'll say, what does it say? It only talks about Hanocha. So from here you see that what? That Hanocha is Ma'akev, Kriya is not. Ravashi, Neidi Kuva Leka, Mitzvah Mi Leka. So Ravashi says, okay, first of all, even if you say that Kriya is not Ma'akev, is Kriya not a mitzvah? In other words, the Brisa could have still included Kriya, because it will say, again, all the Gemara needs to show, when you're trying to make a Kal V'chomer, and you want to disprove a Kal V'chomer, how do you disprove a Kal V'chomer? I will say, how do you disprove a Kal V'chomer? By showing that the item you're trying to compare ultimately again is some type of irregularity. Irregularity is the wrong word, but some type of uniqueness in it. So the Gemara could have just said that by Bikurim, there's, even though if Kriya is not Ma'akev, there's a din of Kriya and Hanocha. Because there's a peculiar halacha of Kriya and Hanocha, by Bikurim, you just can't learn out Meiser Sheni from it. Why omit Kriya altogether? Ela Amar Rashi, Kevan di'ika Bikuri Hager. This is actually quite interesting. The boy nishpa Hashem lavosenu, below matzi amar lo psikole. Oh, listen to this. Says the Gemara, do you know why the Brisa doesn't make a mention of Kriya? Because Kriya is not an absolute obligation. What does that mean? In other words, we'll say there are cases in Bikurim where even lechatchila, the individual bringing the Bikurim will not go ahead and not recite the psukim. I will say, where does this come up? This comes up in a case of a ger, of a convert who is bringing Bikurim. We'll say a convert who is bringing Bikurim does the Hanocha, does the placement, does not do the Kriya. Why not? Because I will say it's part of the Kriya. The pasuk says, here's what you say. I say today to Hashem your God, I've come here not to land the Baruch who swore to our forefathers to give to us. Below matzi amar, excuse me. Below matzi amar. We'll say a ger can't say those words. Why can't the convert say those words? Because Hakadosh Baruch Hu didn't promise it to his forefathers, right? Ultimately, again, he's a convert. His forefathers again are not the Jewish forefathers. Therefore, again, halacha l'maisa, because there are cases, well, not halacha l'maisa, because the Gemara is suggesting over here, because there are cases where kriya does not happen. Therefore, again, the Brisa does not include kriya at all. So the Gemara says, "Lo matziyamar lo psikole." So also, just I'll tell you something interesting. This happens to be a fascinating discussion. Rambam actually doesn't pass it this way. The Rambam says that even a ger recites these psukim. I will say because this obviously because once a person converts, they become part of the Jewish people, which means that it's the same way. There was a discussion in the poskim. What does a ger do with the opening bracha of Shmona Esrei? Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak. That's the bracha of Avos, where we make reference to a patriarchal connection, to a paternal connection. So obviously a ger says that also because once you go ahead and you convert, not only Mikana Laba, it's not only from here and going forward, meaning you become part of the Jewish continuum. So there's an interesting discussion in general by Birkas Hamazon. This comes up where there's a reference to the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Eretz Yisrael to our forefathers. Again, we assume that a ger says all of these things. The only shayla in halacha that is much more than Ma'aseh says, what does a ger do with which bracha? Shelo Asani Goy. Right, Shelo Asani Goy. It's a very interesting discussion in the poskim. Because for a person to say Shelo Asani Goy, if they converted, his pasha seems to be not true. Right? After HaKadosh Baruch Hu did make them a goy, that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them. So nice is a whole discussion about what that bracha what does that mean? What does that mean? But okay, not for today. Amen. The Gemara says the following: So we'll say even if the Kavachomer doesn't work, why can't I make the limud from what's called a Mahat Sad? We'll say loosely translated, a Mahat Sad is a common denominator. So look at Rashi for just a moment. It's about 6 lines down in the short lines of Rashi. So we'll say you could have easily just said that common denominator between Bikurim, Bechar, and Meiser Sheni is what? Is that Lamaisa they all require bringing to Yerushalayim. And then just say the common denominator says everything that requires to bring to Yerushalayim also requires the presence of the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, again, Bikurim requires presence of the Beis Hamikdash. Bechor requires presence of the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, by extension, Meiser Sheni also requires presence of the Beis Hamikdash. And you just learn it out. You just learn it out ultimately again from this common denominator. Because one could have made the pirach, one could have asked the question. Because you will say ultimately again, one could have said that Lamaisa, the common denominator is that they all have what we call it Sad Mizbeach. We'll say ultimately again, all of them have some kind of connection or some part of their service to the Mizbeach that is tethered to the altar. If you look at Rashi says Sad Mizbeach. Ultimately again, Bechor has blood applications, Bikurim has Hanocha, Meiser Sheni has nothing to do with the Mizbeach, Rabosai. So I might have thought maybe the only things which require a Beis Hamikdash are logically those things which have some type of service on the Mizbeach. But Meiser Sheni, which has absolutely nothing done on the Mizbeach, maybe I can eat it in Yerushalayim even today, even without the presence of the Beis Hamikdash. To which the Gemara says the following. So let's analyze this. And here we really drill down into the thrust of the issue. So Kidusha Rishon Kitchela Shaita Vikitcha Lasad level. So we'll say, remember again, Rashi pointed out that we began this discussion, meaning the question of whether or not you could eat Meiser Sheni, separate and eat Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim, Bizman Hazeh. That question presupposes that the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael still exists today. Still, I mean, the Kedusha of the land still exists even in the absence of the Beis Hamikdash. So because the Kedusha of the land exists, therefore there's an obligation to separate out Shumos and Maestros. Now the Gemara says, well, let's take this a step further. Fine, Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael exists. But I will say, just because the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael exists does not mean that what? Does not mean that the Kedusha of the Harabayis still exists even in the absence of the Beis Hamikdash. So says the Gemara, let's analyze this. So I'll say, if you hold that the Kiddush of Harabayis was consecrated and remains in effect even what? Even in the absence of the presence of the physical presence of the Beis Hamikdash. Meaning, whether the Beis Hamikdash is there or not is irrelevant. I don't mean it like that. Meaning not that it's irrelevant. Meaning it doesn't impact the Kiddusha of the Makkos. That Kedushas Harabayis, Kedushas Mikdash, is still devolves upon the place even in the absence of the structure. If that's the case, Afilu B'charnami. Then both say we don't even have to discuss Meiser Sheni. That's obvious, but you could even actually bring a Bechar offering. I will say, if you hold that Kiddusha Rishon the Kitchla Shaita the Kitchla Salavo, if you hold that ultimately again the Kiddusha B'Harabayis is still in existence, then what? You can be Makriv Karbanos. You can actually go ahead and offer up Karbanos today without even, you don't need a Beis HaMikdash in order to offer Karbanos. All you need is a Mizbeach. You need a Mizbeach, you need the altar, and you need the space, the harabayis, to be consecrated. See, if you hold that the kedusha is eternal, so why we've been having a discussion about Ma'aser Sheni. Of course, you could eat Ma'aser Sheni Yerushalayim. You could even offer up the bechar itself. Take a look at Rashi. Ikas kedusha rishona shabayis kitch lo shayde kitch lo salavo ki heichi disrile b'kedusha haaretz becoming boile mikarina be'asafan. So we'll say, so ikasa kedusha rishona kitch lo shayta v'lo kitch lo salavo. But if you hold, we'll say that what? That the initial kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash of harabayis is only there when what? When the Beis Hamikdash stands. But if the Beis Hamikdash is unfortunately not there, the Makkom does not have kedusha. We'll say, let me be clear on that. I mean, the Makkos does not have Kedushas Harabayis. Of course, it starts with Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, but it doesn't have Kedushas Harabayis. Then what? Afilu Bechar Namiti Boy. Then I will say ultimately again that even Bechar will still be a question. Rashi says over here, Afilu Bechar, actually, not yet. So the Gemara says the following: Amar Ravina. So we'll say Amar Ravina. Ravina says the Olam Kasavar Kedusha L'Shaita V'Lo Kitcha L'Asid. So Ravina says that really we hold. I will say, this is subject to dramatic machlokes. Remember, again, we spent 5 hours on this on Shavuos night because this is one of the major discussions about, when we spoke about the ability or the license to go up on Harabayis. Are you allowed to ascend Harabayis? Not so. This discussion is one of the key determinants to the answer of that question. Does Harabayis actually have Kedushas Harabayis or not? That is the fundamental question. Because again, if you hold that there's no Kedushas Harabayis, then what? Then you're good. I also remember, if you okay, we don't get into it now. But if you hold there's no Kedushas Harabayis, plus the fact that remember again, the present platform of the Harabayis is the Herodian edition. One thing is good, we saw this in Sanhedrin, that in order to expand Harabayis and endow it with Kedushas Harabayis, you need the entire Sanhedrin to participate in that. Did Herod have the participation of the Sanhedrin? The answer, of course, is no, for one simple reason, which was he killed them, right? He wiped out. Remember, again, Herod expands the Beis Hamikdash complex because he feels guilty that he pretty much wiped out the rabbinic community. That was his peace offering to the Jews that he was trying. So the Gemara makes it sound like over here, Kiddush Rishon Kitch. So Ravina says, Kiddush L'Shaita V'Lo Kitch L'Asid. No, that the sanctity of the Harabayis is not eternal. The sanctity of the Harabayis is only in effect when what? When the Beis Hamikdash is there, but if the Beis Hamikdash does not stand, the Kedusha is not there. So we'll say, so what's the shayla when it comes to Bechar? Listen to this interesting case. The Bechar shenizrak damo kodem l'chor ben abayis, v'charav abayis, v'adayim b'sar okayim. Listen to this case. This is a case of a Bechar which was offered when the Beis Hamikdash stood. Its blood was sprinkled, obviously on the Mizbeach, and then what happens? Before there was a chance to consume the meat, the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Now, obviously this is an exaggerated case, but it's here to make a point. So what happens when you have a situation where the sacrificial parts of the Bechar were taken care of when the Beis Hamikdash stood, but now consumption was not done before, now the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed? What's the halacha about consumption? So the Gemara says, "V'adayim b'sar okayim u'makshinan b'sar l'damo." So the Gemara says, what do we learn from here? That we equate the blood with the meat with the blood. Just like the blood requires the presence of a mizbeach, or it's going through the sprinkling of the blood with the mizbeach, so too the consumption of the meat can also only be done with the presence of the mizbeach. So we'll say, so in this case over here, even though you sprinkled the blood, the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because there's no longer a mizbeach. You can't eat the meat. Why is this important for us? And ultimately, again, this is the limud, and we compare, as we established before, Ma'aser Sheni to Bechar. And we'll say ultimately, what does that mean? So we learn out from there that just like Bechar requires the presence of the Beis Hamikdash for all stages, requires the presence of the Beis Hamikdash for the sprinkling of the blood, and even for the consumption of the meat. So too what? So too Ma'aser Sheni, in order to consume it in Yerushalayim, requires the presence of the Beis Hamikdash as well. To which the Gemara says, "V'chidavar halamed behekish, chosram halamed behekish." But I don't say. So what we're doing over here is we're learning out Bechar from a Hekish, right? And then we're going ahead and learning that out to go ahead and teach us about Ma'aser Sheni. So the Gemara says, can you do that? Something itself that's learned out by a Hekish. Can it go ahead and teach something else through a Hekish? Look at Rashi. Min adam. We'll say we're learning about the permissibility of the meat of Bechar from the blood. That just like the blood requires Mizbeach, so too the meat requires Mizbeach. And then we're using the meat to teach me about Meiser Sheni. Just like the meat requires Mizbeach, so too what? Meiser Sheni requires the presence of the Beis HaMikdash as well. So I'm learning the din of the meat out from a hekesh, from a comparison ultimately to the blood, and then I'm using that meat to teach me about Meiser Sheni. So we'll say something itself that's learned from a comparison, could it then go and teach me something else from a comparison? To which the Gemara says, yes. Meiser Dagan Chulinu. So we'll say yes, because at the end of the day, so Meiser Sheni, I will say, is a discussion, as much as it's quote unquote consecrated, in that what? And that it has to be consumed in the Beis HaMikdash, I will say, it's not really, in Yerushalayim, it's not really consecrated. In other words, it still has a din in Chulin. And therefore, when it comes to Chulin, Rashi points out, you can learn something else from what's called a double hekish, a double comparison. Amud Beis, so we'll say that's fine, according to the one who says that you could do a double hekish based on the item that's being learned. But the one who says that the prohibition of learning out, not the prohibition, but the inability to learn from a double hekish goes on what we'll say, goes not on the item being learned, but on the source item. What is there to say? And as we'll say, so if that's the case, the source item over here is the blood and the meat, which means you're learning still out of double hekish from the source item. To which the Gemara says, Damu basar chadam ilsi. To which the Gemara says, not really a double hekish. Why? Because the blood and the meat is one thing. Therefore, I will say, even though we're learning out, just like the blood needs mizbeach, so too the meat needs mizbeach, we don't call that really a hekish. That's really one entity, and therefore, again, it's one hekish, one comparison from Bechar ultimately to Meiser Sheni. Fine. So we'll say, so bottom line, halacha l'maisa, is that Meiser Sheni requires the presence of a Beis HaMikdash. That at the end of the day, again, without the Beis HaMikdash, you can't eat Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim. Good. Says the Gemara, Kachek Hadashim. So remember, again, I will say, the Mishnah then goes through the rest of the list. Kachek Hadashim, consecrated items, as well. And again, the Mishnah once again mentions Meiser Sheni. Tanina Chadazimna, Meiser Sheni Baktish Lo Nifter. I will say, so the Mishnah once again states Meiser Sheni a second time. So yet the Mishnah, the Gemara says, but we already learned it. Meiser Sheni and Hektish, which were not redeemed, you go and you get Makkos for. Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, Seifa b'Meiser Sheni tar v'gaver tar. So I'll say, the Gemara says it's about two different cases of Meiser Sheni. What are the two different cases? The Seifa, the end of the end of the Mishnah is talking about Meiser Sheni tar v'gaver tar. That both the Meiser Sheni is pure, is tar, and the individual is tar. And it's saying that if you go ahead and you eat unredeemed Meiser Sheni, that you'll get Makkos. The ka'achel chutz l'choma. So I'll say, what's the case over here? The case is where I have Meiser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim. I'm tar, the Meiser Sheni is tar, and I'm going ahead and what? I'm eating it outside of Yerushalayim. What's the halacha if you eat Meiser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim? You get Makkos. The Gavatar, the Ka'achel Chutzchom Reisha, the first part of the mission, is the Meiser Sheni Tameh, the Gavra Tameh. We'll say the first part is talking about a case where either the Meiser Sheni is Tameh or the individual is Tameh. So we'll say, so this is talking about consuming Meiser Sheni in a state of Tumah. We'll say, so that is either if I am Tameh or if the Meiser Sheni itself is Tameh, that'll be the case of Makkos. And I'm eating, we'll say, Meiser Sheni Tameh. Either I'm Tameh and eating Meiser Sheni tar, or I'm tar eating Meiser Sheni Tameh, and I'm consuming that in Yerushalayim, I get Makkos that. So we'll say, there are two different cases of Makkos that the Mishnah talks about by Meiser Sheni. Case number one is where I am tar, the Meiser Sheni is tahar, but I'm making the mistake of consuming the Meiser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim, I get Makkos for that. Case number two is that either I am Tameh, the Meiser Sheni is Tameh, and what? I'm consuming it ultimately again within Yerushalayim. Uminale de mechayiv alei mishum tumah. And I will say ultimately again, how do I know? How do I know that if I am Tameh and I consume Meiser Sheni, then I'm going to be chayiv for that? I was chayiv Makkos. The sign Rabbi Shimon Omer, Lo bi'arti mimenu b'tameh. So I say the pasuk says, I did not separate. This is by Vidui Meiser. I did not separate it out b'tameh, in a state of tumah. What does that mean? Ben sha'ani tameh b'hutar. That means I did not go ahead and deal with my Meiser Sheni, whether I was tameh and it was tahar. Ben sha'ani tar b'hu tameh. Ultimately again, or whether I was tar and it was tameh. So we'll say ultimately again, we see over here now. We'll say this is talking about separation. This is about separating out the Meiser. Heichal musar ala achila. We'll say, from where do I know that I'm not permitted to eat it? In other words, from where do I learn that if either I am tamei and the ma'aser sheni is tahor, or I am tahor and the ma'aser sheni is tamei, that I'm not permitted to consume it? To which the Gemara says, "Ini yodea." I'm sorry. Say any yodea. Tumas aguf behejiksiv. So I say, the Gemara says, really, you don't know that? Tumas aguf behejiksiv. The fact, if a person is tamei, so the inability of a person himself who is tamei to consume ma'aser sheni is explicit. Nefesh asher sigavo v'tmea utmea ad ha'arev v'lo yochal min ha'kodoshim. The pasuk explicitly says that what? That if a person is tamei, again, referencing a particular type of tuma, he may not go ahead and eat from kachim. It was like kachim, right? Kodoshim does not just mean karbanos, right? The kachim ultimately means any kind of consecrated item. So obviously, if a person is tamei, he can't eat anything that has some element of kedusha associated with it. Ela tumas atzmi. I will say rather. So the fact that if I am tamei, I can't eat ma'aser sheni, that's obvious. The more intriguing case is tumas atzmi. I will say, what if I am tahar, but the ma'aser sheni is tamei? From where do I know that I can't eat it? Dichsiv lo sucha lechol b'sharecha. So we'll say, on one hand, the pasuk says you may not eat. We spent a lot of time on this pasuk a few days ago. You may not eat within your gates, and then the Torah goes through the listing of all of the consecrated items that you can't eat within your gates. Ulahalan hu omer, and later on it says b'sha'arena tochlanu hatamei v'hatahar. We'll say later on it says, in your gates you shall eat it, the tamei and the tahar. The Tanya, the Beit Rabbi Shmuel, afilu tamei v'tar ochlan v'kara achos vein choshishim. We'll say that even a person who is a tamei, and even if a tamei and a tahar are going ahead and eating together out of one plate, we have no chashash. We're okay with that. And we'll say, now what is this referring to? Take a look at Rashi just a moment. It's actually Rashi right across. Ulahalan hu omer. So we'll say, so the Gemara says at first the pasuk lo sucha lechol b'sharecha. You can't eat these consecrated items in your gates. And then it says Lalan omer. Rashi says b'bechor bal mum shenifta. We'll say this is talking about if you have a firstborn animal which is blemished. What do you do with the firstborn blemished animal? You redeem it. You redeem it, and it can be consumed ultimately again by anyone. B'sharecha tochlanu ule'el minei ksuv kiyeh b'mum. Look at the next Rashi. So we'll say the Torah says if you have a blemished bachor animal that you now redeem, afilu tamei v'tar da'afagav da'aser begiza va'avoda kidamrinon v'chol avas nafshecha tizbach v'achalta basar tizbach v'lo giza v'achaz v'lo klavecha basar v'lo chalav subchal chelev afilu hachi tamei v'tar ochlan osa v'kara achas. So we'll say if you redeem a bachor animal that was blemished, so that animal could be consumed by anyone, even a tamei and a tahar together. Rashi says over here. So afilu b'kara achas. I'm reading Rashi. Denechala b'tumas haguf or b'tumas atzman. Dechevan the tamei ochel ban hainu b'tumas haguf ochel atar. Ukishatar ochel imo ula'achar shenagav hainu tar ochel tumas atzmo shachal asatami. So we'll say, watch this. If I have a bachar behema, to simplify this, I have a bachar behema that became blemished. I can redeem it and I can eat it. Torah also says who could eat it? Afilu tamei tar yachtov. Even a person who's ritually impure, as a person who's tar, could eat it together. Now, I will say, once the tamei person eats it, then what happens? Once the person touches it, then it becomes tamei, and yet the tar is still consuming this. Then choshishim the kamerachmana heich tamei the shari locha gabi tar. Excuse me. So the kamerachmana, the Torah says heich tamei the shari locha gabi tar hasam. I will say ultimately again, when do we allow the tamei and tar to eat together? It's only hasam. It's only a specific case. We'll say which specific case of a bachar behema which became blemished that you are now redeeming. Only now can you go ahead and what? Only now can you go ahead and eat the tamei and the tar together. Hacha, we'll say, however, in this case, lo seichel. In this case, I will say, if the item hasam, we'll say hacha refers to ma'aser sheni. In the case of ma'aser sheni, we'll say, however, if the ma'aser sheni becomes tamei, the tar may not partake of it. So we'll say, see here the limud over here, the Gemara darshans, it is that the Torah goes out of its way to say that there is a case where the tamei and the tar could eat together. Even though when the tamei and the tar eat together, as soon as the tamei touches that food, what happens to it? It becomes tamei. Yet the tar can still partake of it. What's that case? That's the case ultimately again of bachar behim, which became blemished and then redeemed. But in another case, i.e. ma'aser sheni, if the ma'aser sheni becomes tamei, the tar may not partake of it. So I'll say from here you see that if the ma'aser sheni is tamei, the person who is tar may not partake of it. We'll say, how do I know that ultimately again you could redeem this item? So how do we know that if Meiser Sheni became Tameh, that you could redeem it even in Yerushalayim? Now, the novelty for that is the following: you could redeem Meiser Sheni produce, but what? You can only redeem it outside of Yerushalayim. Once you bring Meiser Sheni into Yerushalayim, it is no longer redeemable. It must be consumed in Yerushalayim. So say, how do I know that if I have Meiser Sheni that is Tameh, how do I know that I can redeem it even in Yerushalayim itself? Talmud Lomar, Kilo Suchal Seiso. Because I will say you will not be able to eat it. That's how the Gemara is actually this. And therefore, again, seis means consumption. Shnemar, so from here you see that in the case, now again, normally the way we translate this pasuk is this is referred to the fact that if you live far away from Yerushalayim and you can't go ahead and carry your Meiser Sheni all the way to Yerushalayim, so you have the license to what? To redeem it. Now the Gemara is making a supplemental drasha. Seis also means eat, consume. That there are times kilosuchal says so you can't eat the Meiser Sheni, even though what? The Meiser Sheni is already in Yerushalayim. What's the case where you can't eat the Meiser Sheni even when it's already in Yerushalayim? What's that case of Osai? Where the Meiser Sheni becomes Tameh. In that case, you could redeem it as well. So Amar Abibi, Amar Ravasi, Abibi says in Ravasi, how do we know that Rabbi say if you have Meiser Sheni that is tar, that you could redeem it even if you're standing only one step out of Yerushalayim? Rabbi say again, the normal idea of Meiser Sheni redemption is I live far away from Yerushalayim. I don't want to schlep all of the produce to Yerushalayim. So I redeem it. I redeem it for money. I take the money to Yerushalayim and I spend the money in Yerushalayim. How do I know that even if I'm standing one step outside of the walls of Yerushalayim, that I could still redeem the Meiser Sheni? Shene'emar kilosucha le'seiso. But says one second. But we need losucha le'seiso to teach you what we just learned before, which was what? That if Meiser Sheni is tamei, you could redeem it even in Yerushalayim. To which the Gemara says, if that's the case, the pasuk should have just used the lashon of you can't eat it. If you can't eat it, you can redeem it. My say so. So we'll say, therefore, again, ultimately, again, what does say so teach me? Say so teaches me that even if I'm one step out of Yerushalayim itself, I could still redeem the Meiser Sheni. To say maybe it just comes to teach me this. Not to just maybe those suchal say so. It teaches me that even if I'm just standing one step out of Yerushalayim, I could still do the Meiser Sheni. But it doesn't teach you about just halacha. Imkin lemakra lo suchal litlo. So we'll say if that's the case, you could have just said, don't carry it. If you can't carry it, my say so shmam not touching. So we'll say ultimately the Gemara is suggesting that from those suchal say so. I learned both halachas. What are both halachas? Number one, that if the Meiser Sheni became tamei, even in Yerushalayim, I could redeem it. And number two, that even if I'm one step out of Yerushalayim, I could still what? I could still redeem the Meiser Sheni. Yosef, Rav Chani, Rav Oshia, the coming baile. Yosef, Chani, Rav Oshia, we're sitting and we're pondering the following question. Apischa Yerushalayim mahu. We'll say, what happens if a person is standing at the entrance of Yerushalayim? Can he still redeem his Meiser Sheni? So the Gemara says, Pshita hu bachotz umaso bifnim kol tu mechitzos. So let's listen to this case. If I'm standing, let's say I have my Meiser Sheni on my back. So if I'm standing on the outside of the gates, like I'm standing with my back to the gate, so that my pekel, right, my Meiser Sheni is inside the gates. We'll say first wide line. Then obviously again I can't redeem the Meiser Sheni anymore. Why? Because the mechitos, the walls, have absorbed the Meiser Sheni. What about hu bifnim masah b'chutz mal? First wide line, your testimony is. What happens, however, let's say I'm standing in the walls, I'm standing in the entrance, but what? My pekel, my load of Meiser Sheni is outside of the walls. What's the halacha? So Tanalahu Ahu Saba, Bedvei Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Ki Yirchak Mimcha Makkos. So we'll say one of the older men, right, in the shir of Rashbi, dash in the following. The pasuk says, Ki Yirchak Mimcha HaMakom. If the place will be far from you, Mimilu Acha. We'll say Mimilu Acha means from your fullness. Look at Rashi, third wide line of Rashi, Mimilu Acha, Mikol Milui Shelcha, Maso Shel Adam Chashav Miluo. The idea is, in order for you to be considered distance from Yerushalayim, your fullness, your person has to be outside of the walls. If your person is inside the wall, even if your pekel is outside the wall, you're considered to be in Yerushalayim itself, and therefore, again, your produce no longer redeemable. Bayra Papa, Nakit Le Bekan Yamai. So let's just listen to this case. What about halacha lemaisa again? What about if you have your meiser sheni, say like on a stick, right? Like you're going ahead and you have it's on your shoulder, but the pekel is not on your back; it's on a stick. So we'll say so it's extended. So based on the Joshua Mimilu Acha, something that's on my back is considered part of my fullness, so to speak. Once my fullness is in the gates, so the pekel is in the gates also. What happens if it's a little bit dangling in back of me? What's the halacha? To which the Gemara says, "What's I teku?" To which the Gemara says, "That Eliyahu will have to answer. I have to answer for us." Okay, interesting. I'm going to ask you, Rabbi Yochanan, Ma'aser Sheni, Ne'emasai. And also, actually, we'll stop over here. We'll stop over here for today. For the Amar Abasi, I'll share with you a short idea on the parsha. So I'll say one of the dramatic episodes in the parsha is, of course, the dream of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu again running away from home. Mamish running away, even though his father doesn't think he's running. But Lamaisa, he's running away because, as Rivka tells him at the end of last week's parsha, Esav is getting ready to kill you. So Lamaisa again, Yaakov Avinu is running away. So he has the dramatic dream, and in that dream, of course, the pasuk says, he falls asleep and he dreams being a sulam mutzav arza. And ultimately, again, the ladder, he dreams about a ladder, and the bottom of the ladder is attached to the ground. And ultimately, again, the top of the ladder extends into the heavens. And the angels are going up and down the ladder. So if you're listening, I recorded last night. We didn't have our regularly scheduled Rabbi Nachman shir, but you can't go a week without Rabbi Nachman. So I recorded it anyway. So you'll listen to it. So Rabbi Nachman has a beautiful piece. We're actually going to do another piece from Rabbi Nachman this morning. So the Rebbe talks about again the impact of the ladder, why the ladder. Rashi HaKadosh has his approach on the ladder. But I want to bring your attention to something interesting. So he has this dream of the ladder with the base on the earth, the head extends heavenwards, and the Malach Elokim, the angels are going up and down, up and down. So according to Rashi HaKadosh, the real impact of the dream are the angels. This idea that what are the angels going up and down? So Rashi says, Yaakov was leaving Eretz Yisrael. So the angels of Eretz Yisrael are ascending the ladder, and the angels of Chutz La'aretz are descending the ladder. Elokim Baruch who's sitting on top of the ladder. So according to Rashi, the impact of the dream was the idea that Yaakov Avinu, you should realize you're never alone. You're never alone. I know you feel isolated. Remember, he ran away from his family. Although he's going to his uncle's home, he doesn't know that family, doesn't know that mishpacha. And again, as we learned very quickly, their values are quite alien to Yaakov Avinu. You're not alone. There are malachim who are going to accompany you. I'm going to accompany you. You're not alone. But today, Rabbi Nachman has a beautiful, beautiful insight on this. And he says, if I want to quote you, he says, Bayachalom, v'nei sulam mutzav atzor shemagen hashayma, hainu, she'azhira lo shekol avoda sa'adam bezeh olam, hu bevechina zos. The Rebbe understands over here that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not just giving Yaakov Avinu a message of assurance that you're not going to be alone. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving Yaakov Avinu the blueprint for proper avoda in life. Yaakov, you are about to strike out on your own. You are leaving the cocoon of the familial home. You're about to go into alien circumstances, alien influences. I want to tell you the secret to spiritual success. What's the secret to spiritual success? Bebechinas sulam mutzav arza, berosha magia shamayma. Hainu shehu tzarich lechol pam la'alos midarga ledarga. Yaakov Avinu, if you want to know the secret to success in life, the secret to success in life is live life like a ladder. What does that mean? That just like on the ladder, you have to ascend one rung at a time, but you have to keep on climbing the rungs. If you stay still on a ladder, ultimately you go nowhere. So too, again, the secret to spiritual success is every day there has to be growth. Every day there has to be aliyah. Every day there has to be movement. Umachmas zeh miskabrin umishtatchin umispashtim kineged b'chol kach kol pam. The Choshen Baruch Hu saying, Yaakov Avinu, you're going to go out into circumstances that are spiritually hostile. What do you do? What do you do? How do you ensure your success? Every day there must be some level of incremental growth. Does it have to be dramatic growth? Does it have to be magnanimous growth? No. Let's say when you're climbing the ladder, both say, what happens if you try to take too many rungs at a time? Right? So you fall. You fall. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Rabbi Nachman gives Yaakov even the metaphor or the dream, the vision of the ladder. Tell him, here's your secret to success. You have to avoid stagnation. You have to avoid stagnation. It's not just enough not to take steps down the ladder, but you can't remain in place on the ladder either. Because the way the ladder of spirituality works is how? B'nei malachei Elokim olim v'yardim bo. No one ever stays still on a ladder. You're either going up or you're going down. Yaakov Avinu, ultimately, your avodah is to make sure that each and every day you're going up on the ladder. I will say, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Yaakov Avinu, this is the key to success. I have to ask myself every single day. And by the way, it's not just Yaakov Avinu, it's for us. Am I going up the ladder? Am I going down the ladder? But one thing is clear, which is no one ever stays in place on the ladder. The goal, says Yaakov, if you want to be successful, not just in your familial home, but even in the house of Lavan, you have to ask yourself, have you climbed a rung today or not? But then the Rebbe goes on, and he says something quite beautiful. What's the next part of the dream? The malachim are going up and down. So the Rebbe writes, Malach Elokim hema ov de Hashem shnushu l'malachim. So the Rebbe says very beautifully. She says, Malach Elokim. So those refer, so that tzaddikim are olim. Those refer ultimately again to the people who go up. Right? Tzaddikim are the ones who go up the ladder. And unfortunately, again, he says, Rishaim, the wicked are the ones who go down the ladder. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was showing Yaakov, this yesod. Life is a choice. You're either going up the ladder or you're going down the ladder. But one thing is clear, which is no one remains in place. And I will say, and even if you do remain in place, that's the equivalent to going down the ladder as well. So the message that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving Yaakov Avinu was, Lemais, again, life is this great metaphor of the ladder. Either going up or you're going down. And the metric of success in life is to be able, when I put my head on the pillow at the end of the day, is to be able to ask myself one simple question. Did I go up a rung today or not? If I went up a rung, even in the smallest of ways, then that's a successful day. But if Chas V'Shalom, I haven't gone up a rung, then by definition, I have descended. Then by definition, I've taken a step back. But I'd be mosif on the Rebbe one piece of what I was saying, which is, I think, an incredible yisod. The pasuk says, "V'nei malachei Elokim olim v'yardim bo." See, the Rebbe says that the tzaddikim are olim, the Hashem are yardim, but I think it's not before in the pasuk. If you look in the pasuk itself says, "Malachei Elokim olim v'yardim bo." That malachei Elokim is when they're going up and they're going down. That perhaps HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to teach us is the following: there are days when we go up, and there are days when we go down. But even those days when we go down, we're still malachei Elokim. A Jew should never think that because he suffers a setback, that he's lost his kedusha. A Jew should never think that because he's fallen off the ladder. Say sometimes, we don't just fall down a rung. Sometimes, mamish, I fall flat on my back I'm not even on the ladder anymore. I'm mamish fell off the ladder. Even in those moments when we fall, even in those moments when we fail, we're still malachei Elokim. We're still something beautiful. We're still something kadosh. The beautiful part of our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the beautiful part of our personal kedusha, is that our personal kedusha is not absolutely and unequivocally tethered to spiritual accomplishment. Even in those times of abysmal spiritual failure, I still have holiness. I still have goodness. I am still special. And that's why all I need to do is dust myself off, get back on the ladder, and keep trying to rise again. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving Yaakov Avinu in two incredible messages. Message number one is that life is like the ladder. And therefore, again, make sure, says the Rebbe, every single day, I don't have to climb 5 rungs. I don't have to get to the top of the ladder. I don't have to scale the ladder in its entirety. My avoda for the day is one rung. But in those moments of life where there's a yerida, in those moments of life where not only am I not scaling, but unfortunately, again, I'm falling, I'm regressing, even then, I'm still a malach Elokim. Even then, I still have my kedusha. I'm not only when I'm a malach Elokim, when I'm olim, but I'm also good, I'm also special, I'm also beautiful, even when we're yardim. Even unfortunately, again, when we take a step back, even when we take a step down, even ultimately, again, we descend. Sometimes the greatest chizuk of us we have to remind ourselves is that even in the moments of failure just means a temporary setback. Failure just means a momentary lapse. Failure does not mean that I am a failure. Failure just means that I'm experiencing moments of failure now, but I am still good. I am still Kaddish. I am still the Malach Elokim, ultimately, who has the ability to get back on the ladder and to continue climbing.
Guys, it's Friday. Take all the stuff out.